What's up, everybody? This is Round by Round with Derek and Daniel, and today we're going to discuss boxing. What's the difference between boxing and martial arts, like more of the Asian martial arts like karate and kung fu and
Well,
martial arts in that sense?
martial arts would help with your mind, your spirit, not only just for the fighting part of it, but like help you physically, like and mentally. Boxing is there to like help a fighter beat the other fighter, like beat their ass. Like a boxer will try to punch more than he gets punched back.
Yeah.
And it's like, is it practical? Yes. For winning a fight? Yes. Now, for martial arts, yes, that would be good if you're not just trying to beat someone up. You're like using it more as a protective strategy for when you're in the streets. But even then, it's not as practical as if you were a boxer. Your hands are ready to fire. You'll be able to protect yourself way better. Versus martial arts and boxing, I got my vote on boxing.
Oh, yeah, for sure, because boxing is more of a. It's older, man. Oh, I don't know. I shouldn't say that. But I know that the roots of boxing go back, way back, to the very first Olympics. The very first Olympics, the only event that was there was boxing, and I believe wrestling. I believe there were two different things, boxing and wrestling. So even back then, you think of the ancient Greeks and Romans back then, they understood the concept of the best strategy to subdue the enemy is by either using your hands to knock them unconscious or wrestle them and
Yeah.
overpower them on the ground.
And this is just not to say, dude, boxing is not like probably the best practical way of doing it, but you would agree that it's a pretty violent sport compared to martial arts. Like there's not as many rules as
Yeah.
martial arts have. Like you have to kick a certain way, a certain speed, a certain technique. I mean, I'm not like saying it's real exact, but there is like a strategy, a step by step in order to throw a certain punch. Kind of
It's
see it coming type of way.
It's too complex. The complexity of it is
It defeats the purpose of what it's for, right?
the complexity of it is making it much harder to use. Okay, so if think of how simplistic, let's say a firearm is. All right, very simplistic. You pull the trigger. Now imagine if you had a firearm that was much more complex. Like you had to do this, then you had to do this, and then you had to do this, and then fire. Well, usually the weapon that's more simplistic and run off brute force, which means it can develop brute force, making it more effective. You know?
Yeah, even if it just shoots the same amount of power like a pistol would. He's not talking about like a rocket launcher, it takes a while to load. I'm talking about even a pistol could take a life. So that goes to saying with boxing, you're on point 24/7. I could throw a jab instantly. Like I don't
Yes.
even have to think about it. Just
Yeah.
throw it. It can come out a billion different types of ways. But that I'm trained to beat their ass with every single jab I throw. Any jab I throw, it'll be the
Yeah,
same.
it's very simplistic. You know, it's the same modern pattern you've been using thousands and thousands of times, and
Your muscles developed it.
and you literally can use it in your sleep because
It's like a repetition.
you've done thousands and thousands of repetitions of this one movement. And even Bruce Lee said, he's like, you would want to know one kick, you would want to practice one kick 1,000 times or 1,000 different kicks one time. And boxing is more of the way of, hey, you're practicing that one punch, that one kick, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, you could do it
1,000
a billion
times.
times, million times. You're gonna
Yeah.
be a pro at it.
So even, I mean, this Bruce Lee knew this. That's what made him such an innovator because he had the first MMA. What you think of now MMA, he was doing that way back before it was even on TV or before we watched it. All we knew was boxing and maybe some high school wrestling and then you had martial arts and there was always the debate on who's better back then when Bruce Lee was proving it.
And
He took simple movements from wrestling and from boxing and kickboxing. He took those real
and,
simple, basic, brutal movements and broke them down, and that's how he made
yeah,
his
like
own.
from Bruce Lee coming overseas, because that's where he grew up from. Learning how to do a technique a certain specific way on a woodboard, like just learning it, he knew that it was being missed out than using a bag. Because I'll tell you why. If you don't hit it a certain amount of power on that punch, it's not going to move the other way it's supposed to in order to hit the thing correctly. on the wood stilt. Now,
Yeah.
if you use a bag, you could hit it even harder, however the hell you want. If you're hitting the jab harder than you're hitting the power punch, it don't matter. It's gonna fucking hurt the opponent. That's what Bruce Lee ended up doing as he had gotten older and learned how street fighting works. Like had gotten in a fight in the military. Like he learned how to fight in any scenario. Like no matter if his arm is sore that day or his leg's sore. Like martial arts, they worry about all that. In order for the fight technique to come out correctly overseas, of course. Like that's them training as a kid and up.
Yeah, for sure, dude. And I think going back to the difference, between martial arts and boxing, I think that I'll say this: karate and stuff like karate schools and little dojos, and some people make fun of them, call them Mick dojos because it's kind of fake, So they just call them like a kind of Mickey D's, like a McDojo, like a fake martial arts studio. That's what they're called now. But I think as a young kid, like I'm talking like a baby, it could instill certain principles into them. You know what I mean? Like if you take your 3-year-old or your 4-year-old and they just go do a karate class, well, it'll teach them how to, for one, listen and take orders. Kind of teaches them a little bit of obedience, a little bit of patience, a little bit of, okay, I need to practice something to get better. It just instills good principles to live by in them when they're little. You know what I mean? So if you're taking a kid who's 4 years old or 8 years old, I'd say around 7 or 8, or if your kid's a late bloomer, maybe like 10 or 11, take them out of a karate school or whatever and put them into a real combat sport, whether it be wrestling, BJJ, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, something more raw, something more real fighting, after getting them comfortable in a martial arts studio, because a martial arts studio can teach a lot
helps
of
them with obedience.
Yeah,
like
it
with
helps
all
them
that power they'll have as they get older, they'll be able to control it a lot better.
Yeah, it'll help them with patience, and it'll help them with paying attention to technique and things like that.
Yeah, it'll help their mind. It'll sharpen it.
Yeah,
that's
it'll
better
sharpen their
than.
mind,
It's better for them to take that step, in order to get better at the sport they'll decide to get. Whenever it's a lot easier mentally, just needing more physical strength, more ability to be able to do it. But you'll get that strength while you get older and into your prime. So it's best just to focus on your mental state while your brain is still developing at a young age, and you'll be straight. Just
learn some values. A lot of karate classes are based off values, and it's always good to be instilled in a good set of values.
Yeah, just mental state,
and
be able
I
to
think
control it.
I think that karate schools are good at that, but I also think, on the other hand, I think a lot of boxing gyms are good at that too. You have a sense of morality in that boxing gym. Like you tend to go to boxing gyms, at least the ones I've been to. They seem very respectful, and they seem very humble, and they seem very welcoming. And it's not about, oh, I'm gonna beat your ass, or I'm tough, or I'm about this and that. No, it's about being very humble and having a good set of values and morals, to a moral compass and everything. So I think both martial arts and boxing schools prepare young kids for that, and I guess that's I guess it's a whole nother topic itself, but I just wanted to mention that if you do have a young kid and a karate class is convenient, go ahead and put them in that, because it's only going to help them get comfortable with being around, just being around fighting sports. Because they still have little shows and stuff, like they still have competition and stuff like that. Maybe their competition is like an actual spar, and boxing is like a fight.
Yeah, you could say it like that. You could say like the karate technique would be more of a fight, like you would see in a movie, right?
Yeah, like some sparring. It gets you introduced to sparring.
And then like boxing
is the real deal,
the real shit. Like you're actually trying to beat the motherfucker. Like
they're actually. I ain't
gonna let that guy beat me, and I'm gonna try to beat him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's boxing right there.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure. Don't get me wrong, dude. There's complexity in boxing, but let's be real.
Yeah. It's a whole different story when
anything can happen, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Anything.